Hey guys, Alex here with Armadillo Armament, and today we're going to be talking about one of my favorite topics, the piston rifle, and where it really sits in the rifle sphere. Over the last couple months, I have seen a lot of piston hate. Some people going as far as to say that the piston rifle is useless. There are no advantages to piston over a direct impingement system with the addition of a rifle speed gas adjustment system, which is very cool, and I will be having a review on eventually. But the piston rifle is something that I'm very passionate about, and something that a lot of modern militaries are very passionate about that we will definitely be getting into, and I am here to explain why that is. Now, before we jump into the video, I partner with Red Pawn Shop. If you use code Armadillo, you will get 5% off your order. You are not only getting a really cool patch, but you are saving the planet because he is going to be planting a tree and removing 1 pound of junk from the ocean for every item in that order. It's a really cool patch of an Armadillo Quad Nods MCX. Go buy one. All right, so let's talk about pistons. And first and foremost, we're going to be talking about advantages, as well as then into weapon systems, and then finally disadvantages, and why a direct impingement system is so fantastic. There's a lot of nuance to this conversation that I don't think a lot of people are getting. So first and foremost, we're going to jump into it with suppressed performance. The piston system, as many of you have heard, it does not shit where it eats. The direct impingement system is going to bring all that fouling back through the bolt carrier group and really the upper receiver of that firearm. A piston system is going to be significantly cleaner. This is something that I have witnessed firsthand. My MCX hasn't seen too much suppressed shooting, but over the 100 to 200 rounds of suppressed shooting, when I open up my receiver, it is damn near perfect. Meanwhile, my buddy's Mark 18, that carrier is going to be absolutely coated in carbon and look extremely dry too. Because all the gas of a direct impingement system is pushing through that bolt carrier and really the operating part of the firearm, it is going to absolutely eat through that oil very quickly. I find that my direct impingement systems, I definitely need to oil more frequently, but then it's also going to get significantly more carbon fouled. Once again, I find that in a direct impingement system, I'm going to need to be cleaning that within about 500 to 1,000 rounds. Nothing crazy, but at the very least putting in some more lube and maybe going home and cleaning it. Is that the end of the world? No. You should be cleaning your rifle every, couple hundred rounds. We all like to gloat about how often we don't clean our firearms. I do it. I say, I haven't cleaned my Glock in 5,000 rounds, and that's true. Professionals don't gloat about how little they clean their guns. And that is a excellent topic from a Jeff Garwich video of Modern Tactical Solutions. I'm stealing that from him. But basically, a piston system is going to run cleaner. No one is going to disagree with that because a lot of that gunk is going to be around the piston and not in that upper receiver bolt carrier area. A piston system is also going to come with a adjustable gas system that we will definitely be speaking about later. But for the longest time, if you wanted to adjust the gas in your system, you really did need to get a piston system. There were adjustable gas blocks that have huge disadvantages. You would need to go in there with a tiny tool and slowly tune it to that firearm, a tiny little set screw. Right? And then if you wanted to pull off that suppressor, you were kind of out of luck. You basically had to set that set screw to whatever your gas you wanted it to be, and then forget about it. The adjustable gas system on a piston gun has been a thing for much longer, and because of that, piston guns definitely get they're more well known for being a better suppressor host. Think of the HK416. Yes, the Mark 18 could do it, and the Mark 18 is a fantastic weapon system, but many would say that back then a 416 was a superior suppressor systems because of, in small part, that adjustable gas system. Nowadays, we do have the rifle speed gas block, as well as some other really cool gas blocks that I will be speaking about in future videos that have definitely bridged the gap a little bit. That being said, a piston system with their adjustable gas system is, generally speaking, at least in my opinion, superior. I enjoy that it is built into the firearm, and a lot of the times they are a lot more robust is what I'll say. The rifle speed, once again, is fantastic. However, there are many other adjustable gas blocks that just don't hold up to abuse nearly as well as a adjustable gas block on, let's say, an HK416 or an MCX. Mine never gets carbon fouled to the point where I can't adjust it. Meanwhile, with the DI gun, that's definitely not the case. Lastly, for suppressor use, we are going to be talking about blowback. Because essentially the action of the piston gun is in front of the handguard, or rather captured in that handguard, you are technically not going to be getting as much gas blowback to the face. Now, my MCX is a fairly gassy platform, and I wouldn't call it overgassed. That is definitely a term that I've heard thrown around way too much. Instead, I would consider it combat gassed. The MCX has a normal setting and then a adverse setting. That normal setting is going to be your suppressed setting. Then that adverse setting is, of course, going to be for when you get mud in the system and you really want to just push through all the carbon buildup. Let's say you haven't cleaned your rifle in a while. You're going to really throw it on that adverse setting. And then also, if you're shooting steel case, you want to put it on that adverse setting because it's going to allow more gas into the system. Because of all this, my MCX is fairly gassy. I would say about as gassy as a DI gun. That being said, or actually it's a little bit less gassy, but it is still as gassy as a lot of well-tuned DI guns, is what I should say. Now, it is still a phenomenal suppressor host because of this, though. I do find that, especially if I'm wearing shooting glasses and I'm not running a incredibly high back pressure can, I'm not getting nearly as much gas to the face as my friend's Mark 18 or Block 2 M4. Same thing with my 16-inch Saint. That thing has front suppressed, and let me tell you, I get gassed out pretty freaking quickly. Now, I have made no measures to really fix this, like putting on an adjustable gas block, but regardless, I appreciate SIG's use of that gas system to allow me to really set it to what I want. I would prefer to see another gas system or another gas setting on that adjustable gas block, which a lot of other firearms have done. The new HK416 actually has a suppressed setting on that gas block, or that adjustable gas. So what that is going to do is it is going to allow less gas into the system, therefore making it so you are not getting as much gas to the face and out the ejection port of the firearm. Now, it's also important to understand that just because you're running a piston system doesn't mean it's not going to be ejecting gas out of the charging handle, the ejection port, and anywhere the gas can go. Trust me, gas will find a way back into the system. It's just, in theory, they should be better, and I find in practice they are usually better. Lastly, we have reliability. Many will argue that a piston system is more reliable than a direct impingement system. I don't necessarily think one is technically more reliable than the other. A piston system has been found, especially way back when we were trying to shorten the AR-15 or the M4 carbine, piston systems were definitely more reliable. The HK416 was, at least in my opinion, a superior system to a, maybe not a Block 2, but a Mark 18, a 10.3 Mark 18. They were found to 100% be longer lasting, have less parts wear, and be a more reliable system, suppressed full auto. Nowadays, a piston system, at least in my opinion, is likely a little bit more reliable just based off of my anecdotal evidence. That being said, a well-made direct impingement AR is obviously fantastic. Now, let's talk about some examples of piston guns, because this is where a lot of this conversation really stemmed around. Basically, this video was created because I'm getting sick and tired of explaining this to people over and over, or at least explaining my point of view to people over and over. And that is that the piston system really has won. Direct impingement is definitely the king in the civilian market. If you look up AR-15, 99% of them are going to be direct impingement. Obviously, that's intrinsic to the AR-15 platform. That's how it was designed. However, people still use the word AR-15 when they're talking about piston guns, right? But the Piston rifle really has won in terms of military employment and just employment around the world. The HK-416, arguably one of the most popular, was so phenomenal that many special operations groups obviously still use it today, but we mass adopted the M27 IAR as well as the HK-416, seeing incredibly wide use all over the planet. The AK family, that is a long stroke gas piston system, not quite short stroke like the MCX, the Virtus, or many other examples I'm about to bring up, but the long stroke piston is in the AK, obviously one of the most iconic firearms to ever exist and is still seen the world over. The SCAR family, yet another piston system that is widely known to be one of the most reliable just weapon systems on the planet. Very lightweight modular rifle using a short stroke piston, and it is used in both a recce roll, a long 308 or 6.5 Creedmoor rifle, 5.56. The SCAR is just widely known to be a bulletproof firearm design, even though it had some, teething issues when it first came out. The Tavor X95. I don't like them, but a lot of militaries do. That's another short stroke piston system. Let's keep going. The AUG, a bullpup with a short stroke piston, used by military, law enforcement, the world over. The FAMAS, one of my grail, or one of many people's grail firearms, used by a lot of different people, really, or at least used in a very high amount. The FAL, the right arm of the free world, one of the most reliable 308 battle rifles to ever exist, short stroke gas piston. VHS-2, short stroke gas piston. And then finally, the MCX and the Spear. The SIG MCX is obviously my primary weapon system and has been used by special forces all over the planet. The LVAW, as well as most 300 Blackout MCXs, really kind of took the world by storm, I would say, a couple years ago. I'm not going to pretend it's, so much different than an AR-15, or it can't do what an AR-15 can do. It obviously can. That being said, the MCX was everywhere. You saw it in SOF groups, just whenever you opened up Reddit, Instagram, anywhere. And then, of course, the new Spear, the new cartridge SIG is designing, the new really military weapon that, although I have serious issues with the idea of us moving back to a battle rifle, the MCX Spear is going to be, at least in some capacity, replacing a lot of our firearms. We've yet to see how successful that's going to be, but that is, of course, using a short stroke piston system. SIG has worked very hard to also create suppressors and really a lot of attachments to ensure first round hits, less carbon to the face. There's a lot of really cool technology going into the NGSW program, but because of the proliferation, I would say, of suppressors, I have to imagine they really wanted to stick within the piston system or the AR-180 design because they wanted to fully utilize suppressors and give us less cancer. So those are just a couple examples of firearms that are really seen all over the planet. And now going back to direct impingement is once again seen in our modern military. I'm not going to pretend that direct impingement isn't incredibly popular. We obviously have the M4, arguably the best weapons just implementation we've ever created. The most modular, arguably the most reliable. 5.56 has won the cartridge war. 7.62 x 39 and 5.45 tried to win, but we won. John Moses Browning, or rather Eugene Stoner, really was a genius. But he later went on to create other piston systems that I'm not going to say he thinks are superior, but at least in my opinion and many other opinions have become superior over time. So with that being said, there are disadvantages to the piston rifle, the piston system, and these are going to be obvious. That is weight, cost, and I would say parts is lastly the third one. First and foremost, weight. My MCX weighs a hilarious 11 pounds. Now, I have a lot of capability on it. I have a laser, I have a 90,000 Candela white light, as well as a EOTech magnifier, a pretty heavy barrel. I would argue that is borderline a LMG barrel, heavy stock, etc. But a direct impingement weapon is going to be at least a little bit lighter. A DI system, generally speaking, I'm going to put at about a pound lighter. My MCX Once again, that is not running a suppressor, and being at 11 pounds, that can weigh you down. I find that after, especially doing a couple drills back to back to back to back, I find that my left arm, my support arm that's holding up the rifle, is tired. Now, I go to the gym a lot, right? I bench 280 pounds, big deadlift, big squat, big everything. And at the end of the day, weight is weight, and ounces equal pounds, and pounds and ounces equal, you getting tired. So as a field rifle, or just as a rifle that I want to carry around, I would still choose a piston system. However, maybe a direct impingement would better suit your needs. A medium contour or lightweight contour DI system with a relatively light LPVO, relatively light, and then, weight conscious parts is really going to clock in at that 7 to 8 pound range. Whereas once again, that MCX is pushing 11 pounds unsuppressed. It'll be 12 pounds suppressed. We're getting into 308 territory. The Scar 17 or a Sig Spear is obviously going to be even heavier than that. Next of all, cost, right? It's no shock that the piston system is more expensive than a DI system. And I think that is mostly due to scarcity. I don't think that intrinsically a piston system should be that much more expensive. That being said, my MCX is a roughly $2,000 to $2,500 gun. When I purchased it, I think we're looking at about 22 to 23, but most piston systems are just more expensive, guys. That's just a reality of it. Whereas a DI gun, you can get a very nice BCM or an Arrow or a Sons of Liberty, Munition Works, etc. for that $15-ish $100 price range. DI systems are more simple, and because of that, companies are likely to, first of all, create them, and then likely to keep them at a lower price range. That's not even talking about high-end options. The HK416, unobtainium, but a civilian version, is pushing 3K, as well as a Scar, right? Those are 3K rifles. So piston systems are more expensive. The last thing I'm going to say as a negative for the overall piston system is going to be proprietary parts. A direct impingement AR-15 is an AR-15 is an AR-15, right? A vast majority of parts are interchangeable. That's not to say that a lot of companies don't have their own flair, which I find quite annoying. But a piston system is usually going to have a proprietary system. There are some companies out there making really cool long stroke pistons. SIG, their MCX platform, has their piston is obviously proprietary, and then their bolt carrier group is proprietary. Everything is built into that bolt carrier, which is very cool and allows the stock to collapse and is a lot more easy to replace. There's a lot of benefits to that, but the proprietary parts are definitely a downside. If everything for an AR-15 can replace by you just walking in to your gun store, that's a huge advantage, and that's just not something you can do with piston guns. Now, my counterpoint to that is, I don't know how often you guys are changing parts, but I'm looking at about 10,000 rounds through that MCX Virtus, and I have had to replace absolutely nothing. I don't replace AR springs every 5,000 rounds or 7,000 rounds or Glock springs every 5,000 rounds like a lot of people recommend. That is a coup made by Big Spring to try and sell us more springs. I know it's good for the firearm, but I stopped caring a couple years ago, and it has never once bit me in the ass. So I don't think this is as much of a deal as many people make it out to be. And if at the 10,000 round mark or 20,000 round mark, I need to replace my piston and my MCX, that's $700 to go buy a brand new barrel and a brand new piston and throw that in the system. $700 in the grand scheme of things is nothing. That is 1,400 rounds of ammunition, and I've put 10,000 rounds of ammunition through the MCX. Do I wish it was cheaper? Yes, but at the end of the day, guys, that's really kind of a non-issue. If you're a shooter, then you're going to be shooting a lot, and you spend a lot of money on this hobby, and $700, that's a little bit more than the price of like a Glock. That's less than the price of some weekends where I go out and shoot a bunch of ammo with my friends. So I don't think that's as much of an issue as many people make it out to be. Now, the last thing that I wanted to bring up is going to be about accuracy in piston firearms. Now, piston firearms get a bad rap, and that is because the piston is obviously siphoning gas essentially from the barrel, and that is going to, at least quote unquote, intrinsically reduce the accuracy of the platform. My MCX Virtus is a 1 MOA gun. I have recently tested it, and I was able to get about 2 MOA. That is through a 10,000 round barrel, as well as me using a EOTech and a G45. I have no doubt that I would be able to bring that down to a 1, maybe 1.5 MOA group, which, by the way, is well within military standards of 7 MOA. Now, if my rifle was a 2 to 3 MOA gun, I would not care at all. A 2 to 3 MOA gun is well within my ability as a human. I am not a precision shooter, especially not with a EOTech. My Mars H that I will be having a review on is a ludicrously accurate firearm. That is a sub-minute gun all day using Federal Cold Metal Match 170 or 180 grain projectiles. Piston systems, they may, quote unquote, intrinsically be less accurate, but in a realistic situation, I have not found that to be the case. And if it is less accurate, I'm not good enough to see it. So if you are buying a DI gun because of accuracy, I would reassess. To round out this video, piston systems aren't perfect. I prefer them because I care about that modularity. I care about that gas. And I just like a lot of the attributes that the piston system provides me over a DI rifle. That being said, DI is here to stay. It is a very simple system, and there are great benefits to it. The military has clearly shown favorable to the piston system, and I think that is warranted. I think that pistons are technically the future, especially if we can make them lighter or make them a little bit more ubiquitous to other platforms. But at the end of the day, it's all personal preference, guys. If you have a DI firearm, there's nothing wrong with that. Get out and train with it and enjoy what you have, because you have likely a fantastic rifle. If you have a piston gun, you probably have a fantastic piston gun, and you probably own that for a reason. Maybe you do a lot more suppressed shooting, or maybe you need that modularity or that gas adjustment. So it really does come down to personal preference. That being said, this video really was created because I see so many people picking on the piston system and saying that it is useless, not necessary at all. I just don't find that to be the case. There's nuance to every conversation, and that nuance is what really breeds the innovation. Piston systems wouldn't be good today if DI wasn't right behind them eating their lunch and improving constantly, and vice versa. DI wouldn't be as good as it is today with their adjustable gas systems like the rifle speed gas adjustment system if Piston didn't exist, and if people didn't have the want to suppress their firearm without, having all the issues that a non-adjustable DI gun can have. So it's very good to have these conversations, and I want you to continue the conversation down below. If you're running DI, tell me what you're running. Tell me if you're running it suppressed and what you're using to kind of fix that. Or, if anything, if you are running a piston system, what gun are you running? Why did you go piston? And do you think that that weight is worth it and that price is worth it? Once again, there's a lot to talk about here and a lot of nuance that I'd love to see in the comment section. This has been Alex with Armadillo Armament. Thanks for stopping in, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.